Okay, so we just, a few days ago, maybe a week ago. By the time I watched this, I only watched this like a couple days ago. But what if season 3? In a Collider kind of article, I don't mean to, kind of poop all over it. And I actually enjoy a lot of the Collider articles because I love to react to them, love to see people's thoughts on them. We have this article. What if season 3 just set up next potential animated X-Men team? And the cover image is of Captain Carter, Storm, and the other characters that we saw in the finale of What If. And I was not a fan of What If season 3, and I know a lot of people aren't. But let's dive right into this. 2024 was the year Marvel Studios fully embraced having the film and television rights to the X-Men franchise back, and the studio's final release of the year, the third and final season of the animated series What If, followed in the footsteps of earlier projects integrating the mutant-focused X-Men mythology into its world and narrative. In addition to giving a supporting role to a variant of X-Men Storm, with Allison Seeley Smith again voicing the character she famously portrays in the X-Men animated series and its sequel X-Men 97, the series makes several references, both overt and subtle, to other characters and concepts from the X-Men lore, an allusion to the Exiles, a separate superhero team with close ties to the X-Men. It's arguably the most telling, as a project focusing on the former group would be a natural successor to What If, given that it would continue exploring the Marvel multiverse while giving mutants more central roles, just as the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole prepares to do. The Exiles are the X-Men of the multiverse. Created by Judd Winnick and Mike McKone, the Exiles first appeared in a comic book of the same name in 2001. The initial version of the team was brought together by a being known as the Time Broker and tasked with fixing broken realities. Although the nature of their missions was often morally ambiguous, causing members to continue their commitments to the group. The original Exiles consists of X-Men and other mutant superheroes from various universes, were led by Blink from the Age of Apocalypse, a world in which Professor Charles Xavier was killed before he could start the X-Men, and the villainous Apocalypse subsequently conquered America. Although most Exile stories continue to connect in some ways of the X-Men franchise, figures from other corners of the Marvel Universe, including Miguel O'Hara's Spider-Man 2099 and What If mainstay Captain Peggy Carter, have since joined the iterations of the team. You're selling me so far on this. Exiles could be Marvel's next multiverse show. Although Peggy is presumed dead after the final battle between the Guardians and the Watchers, the series finale implies that Watto and the rest of the team will continue observing and aiding the multiverse. While this could easily lead one or more of them to simply appear in other projects, especially as the culmination of the MCU's multiverse saga approaches, it also opens a door for a more direct follow-up to What If. Various Marvel Studios creators have confirmed that the franchise will continue exploring the multiverse even after the saga concludes with Avengers Secret Wars, while also describing the franchise's next era as revolving heavily around the mutant mythology. Given this, an adaptation of Exiles makes perfect sense as the next project dedicated to an anthology-style depiction of alternate realities, and another animated series is likely the best format for such an adaptation since, as in the case of What If, it would allow for the creation of especially unique and elaborate visuals and worlds without the practical limitations of live-action filmmaking. Even though the other Watchers refer to them such, a Marvel Studios version of with the Exiles wouldn't have to consist solely of the surviving Guardians. That being said, What If's version of Storm would definitely be an intuitive choice for such a team, given her ties to both the X-Men and the multiverse, and fellow Guardians Kahori and Birdie could definitely appear, whether as regular cast members or in supporting roles, as again, Exiles comics have never been limited to solely focusing on X-Men lore. Likewise, even if he doesn't have the kind of leading role he had in What If, would be logical for Watto to continue to appear in the Exile series, given that the What If finale implies that he'll continue to be an influential figure in the multiverse. So on the base level, you see the beginning. What If season 3 just set up the next potential animated X-Men team, and you see the 4 women that were in the finale of the show, and you're just like, ugh. Who wants to see this? I mean, who wants to see more of Captain Carter? The other characters, maybe, Storm especially, but these other characters, I am not a big fan of. I mean, it's implied at the end of What If, and spoiler alert for What If you haven't watched it, or I don't know. It's almost implied that Peggy is the one watching over the Watchers now, which is just crazy. And I don't want to rant too much about this because again, who was the Peggy Carter fan they let into the writer's room to produce this show, because this is crazy. This could actually be quite interesting. I literally went into this article seeing the headline, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. But the more I'm looking into it, and the more I'm talking about the Exiles and how they talk about how the Exiles isn't really limited to just one team, but it could be numerous teams, this could be interesting. That being said, the stories cannot be like the what if stories. The what if stories were just things that people did not really want to see. The finale of the show was pretty cool, but I would love to see different stories fleshed out, like the cameos and other variants that we saw in the final few minutes of the What If Season 3. You know, we'd see the Spider-Man with multiple arms, or Riri as Punisher, or even like so many different things. You know, Deadpool with the numerous guns, and it just goes on and on. Those are so many more interesting stories. Not to say that What If didn't have interesting stories, it's just they didn't have that many as, you know, we hoped for. There was a lot of throwaway ones, but there was a lot of cool ones too. I would definitely be open to this show. I just don't know how great this show did. I mean, we'll have to wait and see what type of numbers it did once I guess the Nielsen number comes out and everything, who actually watched What If Season 3, and if there was a dip in viewership and the reviews were good. But it genuinely feels like a lot of people, I don't know if you could say turned on the show, but just are not a fan of the show whatsoever. I mean, I've seen a lot of big creators that are usually for Marvel stuff are not for this right now. But they do say this could come after Secret Wars, which I think Secret Wars is slated to come out in 2027, so this wouldn't be for some time. So it could be interesting as a kind of follow-up thing, but if the team consists of these 4 individuals that we see, ain't nobody watching this. If Storm's the leader, Storm is definitely a very good character to kind of carry a show. I think a lot of people would really like to see something with Storm, especially her wielding Mjolnir, being the goddess of thunder. But these other characters, I don't believe people really want to see that much. You know, maybe Kahori, but the other birdie, I don't think people care about. And people certainly do not care about, or at least most people don't really care about Captain Carter after what we've seen in What If, of her being the central figure of a story that should just have had maybe like individual stories. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing. But I'm personally not a fan of the What If show after season 3. I kind of liked the first season. Second season was okay. This one was just like a waste of time, it felt like. But the Exiles could be really interesting because the team could literally be like any type of, it looks like variant, you know, like they said, Miguel O'Hara from 2099. But then if you look up pictures, you could see Scarlet Witch, you could see, it looks like a Bucky or a Punisher, Black Panther. Could be really interesting, you know. I don't know. You know, there's a lot of stories you can go with, it seems like. But if they just go like a lame route and not use a lot of these characters that could make the show really well, not saying you can't use these 4 characters, but if these 4 characters are just the main ones of the team and they're only following these characters from it and not following other characters from other universes and other variants, the show is doomed to fail. But you let me know what you think of this. You know, I have no hate towards these characters. I genuinely like Kahori. I genuinely like Storm. I liked Captain Carter until they just made her the best, you know. Anyway, interesting enough. You let me know what you think of this article. Would you potentially want to see an Exiles show in animated form after Secret Wars, maybe before Secret Wars? Let me know that down below.